Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ron Stetcher. I'm with Stratasys Incorporated, and I'm here today to kind of do what I call additive manufacturing 101 and kind of maybe describe in a rudimentary way some of the future of the product development and how manufacturing is changing. The terminology, additive manufacturing. How many folks here, help me out, are running 3D printers or RP systems or some other name that you may use? Well, basically, it's known by all of these names. You know, we think of it as 3D printing. Rapid prototyping was the most common name when we first started into this. Rapid tooling, rapid technologies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And basically, it really kind of boils down to, it's all additive manufacturing. You know, the term really covers all the technologies. And digress a little, what is additive manufacturing? It's pretty simple. If anybody asks you what that is, just tell them it's just the opposite of subtractive manufacturing. That's all you need to know. Game over. And what is subtractive manufacturing? Your CNC machines. As you go out there and look, where somebody takes a physical block of material, you whittle away until the part appears, that's subtractive. Additive manufacturing, we start with nothing and we just build it up layer by layer, simply putting in the material where the part is. If you take nothing away today, that's it. You know, so the additive manufacturing's kind of become the new industry term to umbrella all of these things. You know, and what is it? It's just a collection of technologies. And as we go through, I'm going to show you some examples. There's also, and I'll give the plug to my counterparts and others over in the RP pavilion area there. You'll see all the various technologies, and when you see them now, you can say it's additive manufacturing. We're not going to get into what are the differences between all the different ones. Just kind of give you a broad base overview and maybe expand your thinking a little bit on how to use these technologies. The process, and it's a typical process, we kind of all do it the same. We start with a CAD image. We take that CAD image and we slice it layer by layer, typically start at the bottom and build up in some type of an additive manufacturing piece of equipment. Then at the end, there's various post-processing or cleanup or other things that take place. But the process is pretty much the same all across the board, no matter which piece of equipment you're talking about. Let's look at some of the classifications as we go through here. On-demand services, service bureaus, job shops, whatever you want to call them. These typically are your lowest cost to bear, barrier to cost to get parts. I.e., it's a person that'll make you a part for a given cost, that's it. It's kind of like the Kinkos. You go in, you want them to have them print you out something, you give them a file, they print it, they charge you the dime, the nickel, and you leave. Next level is, and again, terminology, 3D printers. And this is one of the more affordable solutions, affordable by our definition. And think of it as kind of like your little HP printer. You got it sitting next to your desk, and you can pull up your word processing file or even your CAD file or whatnot, make a print, boom, it comes out right next to your desk. These typically, we kind of define as that 10 to 15K range in our market today. They're simple and easy to use. They're optimized kind of for this form fit concept model. Sit at your desk, run it in your cube type of equipment. Then the third level we call the 3D production systems. They're a higher performance systems. They're typically larger. They have more functionality to them. They're not something you typically have sitting on your desk or next to your desk. They're usually in a lab or a room or some facility to handle the higher volumes and the variables involved in it. in our market today, that's kind of defined, dollar-wise in that $50,000 to $500,000 range category, and they're optimized for performance, more of a manufacturing tool, and a much broader base of applications. Look at kind of the traditional methods here we talked about. We always thought of RP. RP is just, it's concept models, or I'll use them for some kind of a functional prototype. It's, okay, it kind of looks good, it's close, it allowed me to get to the point now where I want to do something else. The other categories that are getting added to this whole additive manufacturing are manufacturing tools. This is one of those areas that we've kind of become an educator in our industry, because most folks think of us as just RP and concept models. Okay, it's a design tool. We're moving more and more into the manufacturing arena. Manufacturing tools are not end-use parts, but the gentleman was like two presentations before me, drilling composites. A lot of our folks make drill guides, drill tools, especially in the aerospace where you have erratic surfaces, things change, jigs, fixtures, assembly tools, quality control, CMM holds and fixtures and all of that. So manufacturing tools I put in that category, it's not the end use part, but it's all those little gizmos and jigs and fixtures and gauges that you have to create to either make a part, assemble a part, inspect a part, even ship and package parts or move them around. So that's the manufacturing tools. And then the end-use parts. End-use parts are something that actually gets used in a product. And unknown to most, there's more and more of those products or parts that are being produced today. Those kind of what we fall into this direct digital manufacturing. Okay, throw in another term. Direct digital manufacturing is simply you go from the CAD to that end product without machining or making molds or anything in between. So we're going to kind of focus a little more on the direct digital manufacturing, because that's somewhat new, and every one of you use it or do something like this if you're in the manufacturing arena, but you don't think about using an additive manufacturing tool to help solve it. It's life according to Ron. Here's kind of this technical assessment here. 3D printers, and you kind of see the lines skew across, typically are used in that concept modeling, functional prototypes. Even though, people do DDM and end-use parts and all of that with them also, but your productivity systems are typically geared for the high-end manufacturing tools and end-use parts, but they're used for RP, functional prototypes, so it's used all across the spectrum. Just your typical design cycle. You have a concept design, engineering, detail design. Now we're moving along, tooling. Okay, now we go to prototype. Looking at this gauge alone, you can say I can go concept design to engineering prototype with my additive manufacturing, but we won't get hung up on that. And then you start the design change cycle. And that's that whirlwind of design changes, all of that prior to production release, and then your production release. Little chart some of you may or may not seen when we look at that typical cycle. And it's a phrase that's been running around for a long time, was the prototype early and often to minimize the cost of change. Kind of an old chart, it's been floating around a while, but shows you what the cost of change is. In that concept while you're sitting there on the tube designing, it costs you maybe $1 to make a little change there. Okay, now engineering has it, now I've got time in it, I've got human resources, I've moved it over, we've started documenting things, cost goes up. Now we've gone to the detailed drawings, all of that, we're ready to release it for tooling, cost goes up a little higher. Also, you've crossed that line where, heard the old term before, that 80% of the product cost is kind of finalized once the design is done. So anything you can do using the additive manufacturing tools to reduce costs, manufacturing costs, not only your design, reliability, and product, but you can do a lot to reduce these costs on the other end too. Then once you go to tooling, your cost of change goes up. And once you've hit production, any of you that have ever gone through this cycle, it's brutal. Because once you have to bring a product back and loop back to the beginning, I mean, you've got marketing dollars in it. You've sold it to customers. You have all of these costs that are associated with it, that to make that change is painful. And a prime example, I'm not going to pick on them, but it's the one, it's a company that we've all heard of recently. I was just reading about them this morning. You know, that you talk about what happens when a product or a design, when things go bad after it's been released in the field. Toyota. The billions of dollars that it's not only cost them in sales, but reputation. I mean, they've even got NASA involved to kind of help them get back their reputation on their product reliability. Some of those you say are intangible costs. Some of them are real costs. Cost of recalling a product when you have 5 to 10 million vehicles you bring back in is a cost, but the cost of the reputation in your company. So I mean, those things you can do early in the game before it gets out there to try to anticipate these things. Pay great benefits on the other end. Again, back to that ideal, we always like this ideal cycle. It just, you loop through once, it gets out, everything's perfect. Okay, enough of utopia there. Now let's just look at some case studies as we move through here. Could have talked about concept design. One of ours, Ducati, racing motorcycles, all of that, where they really took, you know, an engine that took them 24 months to design and build, and reduced that by 71%. And if you kind of look at, I'm not going to read it to you as you go through, but the amount of design changes, errors that they found by using additive manufacturing to verify their parts as they went through, the dollars that it saved them before they got to production, and just how they took that whole time to market and just compressed it. You know, valuable dollars on all ends, not only reducing your costs, which we just kind of show cost, but you know, when you go from 28 months to 8 months, you're to the market sooner, you're out there, you're leading, you know, as we all know, once you start a product design, you bleed red ink until you sell the first product. So I mean, it's huge when you just look at those kind of numbers. Another one is kind of the functional, using additive manufacturing for functional. And Toro I happen to work very closely with, but got hooked up, probably been 10 years ago. They make sprinklers. You know, they make lawnmowers and other things too, but a lot of it was golf course sprinklers and things like that. So they make these nozzles that shoot 100 feet and soak everything. But they were going through and they were trying to reduce their prototyping and time to market on things. We went through and we found out not only could you do the concept models, but with some of the materials, they could actually functionally test and eliminated prototype tooling. What did that do? Reduce the time, reduce costs. They were doing more testing, and they have an indoor test range, you know, 100, 200 feet where they blast these things off. So they were having to wait for tools, make tools, shoot a prototype, go, oh, that's wrong, go through that cycle. Just some of their savings alone, you know, and they tracked it very closely over 2 years. They saved that over 280, weeks, and over $500,000 in costs by time to market, compression, and eliminating, you know, prototype tooling costs. So that's kind of that form, fit, function type of application in there. Manufacturing tools and end-use parts. Now we're kind of moving into that, what we call that DDM, direct digital manufacturing type of an arena. Again, concept models, functional prototypes, manufacturing tools, end-use parts. Looking at the DDM, you know, some of the direct benefits that you achieve from this. Financial gains, you know, lower costs, increased profits. Everybody wants that, but time is money too. You know, decreasing, and we just talked about it here a little bit. That time to market and the cycle time on your whole product. Another one, and we call them I call them the soft benefits or the intangibles. Design freedom. You know, the ability not to have to design around traditional manufacturing, machining, or fabrication methods, but having the ability to kind of freeform design. The ability to redesign kind of on the fly. And this rapid response time. We're back. Time always fits. You notice how time flies in here. Some of these best fit when we're talking about that DDM or end-use parts, low volume type of parts. Again, if you do a number on these, we fit, you know, you do an ROI, you get your pencil out, we're gonna fit somewhere between here and making a tool in mass production. So, and again, depending on the product and the requirements. A big one that's hit that, you know, when I say low volume, it's bridge tooling. A lot of times folks will start, even though our cost per part, you know, when you do it on this type of additive manufacturing may be higher, but they'll use it for bridge tooling. They'll be making parts while they're waiting this 20 weeks or 10 weeks or whatnot for the tools to get done and the production parts to come. Again, time to market. They're getting products out there, they're getting their initial products delivered, maybe they're running focus groups with them, but they're actually shipping product while they're waiting for their main tools. A lot of people I've talked to have done that. Some of the other places are that high part complexity, where it's just a super complex tool where it's very expensive. You know, you can eliminate that tooling and again, reduce some of that longer lead time. Again, you know, when we're getting better, we say, well, aesthetics is not critical. You know, some of the additive manufacturing and many, you know, don't make that clear, smooth, you know, shot it in a mirror finish mold look. So does it fit inside? Is it not, or aesthetically, can I finish it, paint it, or do something else that I can do it with? And then the properties of them. You know, as you go through and talk to the various vendors, no one person does everything, or there wouldn't be several out there, but nobody collectively does everything when you look at that whole materials chart. So you got to kind of look at the materials and the properties. Having said that, every day, one of us gets better. You know, it's like we keep growing as we've advanced along here. So it never ends. Just in a kind of an example in our manufacturing tools, what I call fixture and assembly tools, Orig vacuum cleaners. Yeah, they were an early adapter as a concept model, functional prototype, and then kind of said, hey, we've got all of these fixtures, 40 to 50 per vacuum, and they do all different vacuums for all different vendors, and they're all a little different. They were machining these things, they were very expensive, long lead times, and they said, hey, we got this machine over here, let's start creating these fixtures. So they started making fixtures in-house. They were able to hold the tolerances. You just look at some of their typical savings on just one set of fixtures there, and remember, they're doing this 40 or 50 times. The machines all of a sudden that were designed for concept and models and that paid for themselves in weeks in just reducing costs, reducing their downtime. Because, you know, every time you got to retool to switch over to a new product or somebody changes something, all of that fixturing tooling, it all changes too. So having that, it's all CAD data. They got the CAD data, boom. Additive manufacturing, we kind of produce new parts on the fly. We're up and running quicker. And our manufacturing process speeds up. Just an idea, some of their typical savings on just one product line as they go through. And they're doing this every day, things are changing. So for some reason, I get to show you a little video of a guy, and basically it's just that fixture that he's using, hold the parts with, it's moving on the line. It is part of their process. Another one is, if you stop by the booth that we failed to mention, is BMW. BMW has embraced this technology years ago, and a lot of the assembly tools, alignment tools, we've got a fixture that they use to install the M3 logo on their cars. I mean, an elaborate scheme that went from metal to something now that's ergonomically, you know, more feasible. It's lighter, reduces operator fatigue is just much more functional, and they have moved from that concept testing. It's on their production lines. Same as here. They're running them down the lines. The materials are there. They're tough enough. They can handle it. Another one where we, case example is Script Pro. They do pill filling bottles. So you probably have a booth here. Thing is, you've got a system, their feed system changes for every new medication or pill that comes through. So you have these bezels that have to be adapted for every new style of pill. Somebody changes something, you add a product line, you've got to create this new bezel. So you can't really create a tool, a hard tool to injection mold thousands of these bezels, because every time I get, I switch over, I got to have a different, this is what we kind of call that custom manufacturing. Most common in the end use parts that it's probably most heard of is hearing aids, custom hearing aids. Now custom hearing aids, somebody scans an ear, additive manufacturing, they make a specific hearing aid for you. And that's probably one of the most widespread adoptions today, where an industry is the custom hearing aids. They don't do it manually. They scan your ear, bump, grow, use the term, grow a part, assemble it, boom, you're going. That's one off. Every one is different. Same thing here. Low volumes, we got to have a quick changeover. We've got, they're all custom, because we don't know until we get the pill and we start running through what the bezel's got to be. But if you look at them, they do them, just some of their injection molding costs, where they were doing 30-some thousand a year, and we, boom, shrunk that down. Just your, kind of their typical bezel. It's just a simple part. You go a simple part. Do you have to make a tooling and wait the time? I mean, why not? You've got a machine, you can just sit there and produce it on the fly without ever having to do tooling or anything, and adapt like that. So, need a change tomorrow, I got me a new bezel. We do the same thing. And I encourage you to come by our booth, but if you look on our machine, there's a bezel. Key thing, we saved $100,000 in tooling. It was a $100,000 mold. We make this stuff, so we have the machine make parts for itself. So we eliminated tool costs. So if our vendors change somewhere in the LEDs or buttons or something, we're not out the tooling costs. We just fix the design, boom. We have new bezels right now, so it doesn't cost us anything in our slowing down our production or anything. So, and vendors do change, and you all know that. Your vendors will change and say, oh, we got a new LED. Whoa, 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 it doesn't fit my old design. So it's just little changes like that cause big problems, and you can solve them. I guess in summary, it's just the additive manufacturing technologies were proven. We all kind of really know where we're at today, and we can quantify it and justify it and show you the materials, show you the properties where it fits. It is integrated in many markets. Aerospace, defense, manufacturing has really been kind of leading this, as they do in a lot of the technology. Again, low volumes, high tech, quick changeover, got to happen, but all industry is starting to filter into that. They posed as this what they call disruptive technology. We are going to change the way business is done, and we are. People that adopt our technologies, and you're going to look, I'll give you kind of a pre-release look in a couple of weeks for some of our latest splashes of people that have redefined their whole business and are going to redefine a whole industry based upon this technology. And once you see it, you're going to go, wow. It's kind of like one of the, yeah, that's so simple. Why didn't I think of that? But it is. It's going to change. Take a look at it. As I mentioned, over in that kind of that 3,500 aisle, that RP pavilion area, you'll see not only ourselves, we're in 3415, give myself the plug, but everybody else is kind of around there. I mean, most of the major vendors, of this technologies, from service bureaus to manufacturers of the equipment, are all kind of around there. So if you're not familiar with them, get familiar. And more importantly, open up your thought process when you're looking at these things. There's not just something that makes a little concept model, but something I can use to drive my business with. Okay, thank you. Yes, sir. Go back a slide or two. I'm sorry, I can't hear you, but.
Talk about the cost of that bezel, $6,750.
Oh, okay. He was like, can I talk about the cost of the bezel? Only up to the point I can. You know, when they were injection molding, they had to make a tool. Yeah. And then their cost for all the bezels, not only because they make more than one, you know, across all of their machines. You know, you had a tool cost, and then you had to make many bezels because they make more than one machine. So it wasn't just, you're right, it would have been if I said per machine, boom, yeah, per bezel. But that was their cost because they have a whole line of these machines. I can't remember the exact number that they do, so it's more than one machine. And the other thing that's kind of interesting about this, and not to overstate my welcome anyhow, is that a lot of people now do not inventory this tooling or this special bezels and stuff because they have the CAD file. When they're done, they can throw the part away. If they need it 2-3 years from now, they just go to their CAD data, pull it up, make a new one. So a lot of this fixturing, tooling, specialty things, you don't have to keep around on the shelf and catalog them. All you have to do is catalog the CAD file and you're done. So it really has reduced a lot of inventory and tracking and documentation types of things also. But yeah, thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, that's more than one. They have a whole line of them. Any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you.